scaly feathers and bronze and concrete, faded colors, pieces left incomplete. The light moves slowly past the electric fence, across the borders between continents, in the cathedrals of New York and Rome. There's a feeling that you should just go home, spend a lifetime finding out just where that is. In the shadows of tall buildings, the architecture, it's slowly peeling, and the marble statues and glass dividers, someone is watching all of the outsiders. The line moves slowly through the number gate, past the mosaic of the head of state, in the cathedrals of New York and Rome. There's a feeling that you should just go home and spend a lifetime, find out just where that is. Shadows of tall buildings, of open arches, endlessly kneeling, sonic landscapes, echoing vistas. Someone is listening from a safe distance. The light moves slowly into a fading light, a final moment in the dead of night, in the cathedrals of New York and Rome. There's a feeling that you should just go home and spend a lifetime finding out just where that is. In the cathedrals of New York and Rome, there's a feeling that you should just go home, spend a lifetime finding out just where that is. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to New York Encounter 2025. Let's give ourselves a round of applause. And thank you, Venice Thomas, for the gift of her presence and performance. It's like an invitation, an encouragement to live this weekend with our eyes open, our heart and our mind open, so that the encounter with the great love, as we put in our statement, mission statement, or theme, as you want to call it, that this encounter may actually happen, and we may be vigilant and open to acknowledge it and to follow the path. And we take a first step onto the battlefield with a longtime friend of ours, Cardinal Seán O'Malley, who will share with us his reflections, his thoughts about the theme. So I invite Cardinal O'Malley to come here to the podium.
Good evening, everyone. It's a great joy to be back at the New York Encounter, which is such an extraordinary event. And for so many years, I've been coming here, and each time it's an enriching experience. And recently, someone asked me, they said, what are your pronouns? Now, when you ask someone 80 years old what their pronouns is, it's pretty disarming. And but I decided that my pronouns are thou, thee, thine, and please remember that thine is always used before a vowel. When I was a young priest working at the Centro Católico in Washington, there was a terrible earthquake in Guatemala. It was in 1976, and it was 7.5 on the Richter scale. Thousands of people died, and I was contacted by an NGO in Washington because they were sending someone down to help out, and they wanted me to help find a very remote area where people probably would not be getting any help from anyone else. And I had a friend in those days, Adolfo Menendez, Guatemalan, who did a lot of photography for National Geographic and would travel way out into the most rural areas and was on very good terms with a number of the indigenous tribes out there. And so he took this man from the NGO there, who met with the chief and the leadership of this tribe and explained that he was there to underwrite any one project that they could identify as their most important need. He said whether it's a clinic or a school or potable water, whatever. And the chieftain said, well, we have to bring the community together to make this decision. And so they had their meeting, and afterwards the chieftain came back and said, we decided our greatest need is to repair our church, which was damaged by the earthquake. Of course, the man from the NGO was completely shocked, seeing the great need and the poverty of the people, and never would have occurred to him that they would identify that as their most important need. Pope Francis in Evangelii Gaudium says how quick we are to provide material aid to people and how slow we are and how neglectful we are about their spiritual needs. 800 years ago, a bishop and a poor friar were both working on churches. The bishop was working on a church in Paris that eventually became Notre Dame, a church that could hold 9,000 people. And the friar was St. Francis, building another church in honor of Our Lady, the Porziuncola, that holds about 25 people. In these last 800 years, how many millions of people have passed through those churches that have been the gate of heaven for many believers, addressing the longing of the human hearts for meaning, for beauty, for community, and for all that's tied up in our hunger for God. That tiny church of St. Francis, Our Lady of the Angels of the Porziuncola, was rebuilt at God's behest. Rebuild my church. Today we're getting the same marching orders. Rebuild God's church. And that's the way that we will bring new life into our world. Rebuilding the Porziuncola and the Cathedral of Notre Dame have had a huge impact on the world. The reopening of Notre Dame is truly a sign of hope, a sign of jubilee, that reset button in our spiritual longings. I was reminding Philippe and the people who've come from Notre Dame that for over 200 years, the Capuchin friars ran the fire department in the city of Paris. And I told him if we were still running it, that fire would never have taken place. So, a recent survey taken up by Pew reveals that for the first time in our history, more Americans would prefer not to have children. Never have we had so many dying of suicide and drug overdoses. Our Holy Father has given us this new Jubilee year that more people will truly be able to say, here begins a new life. We are a people of hope. The New York Encounter always brings us together, and this year as pilgrims of hope. The first encyclical in the New Testament is called the First Epistle of St. Peter. And in that document, the first pope tells us to be ready to give an explanation for the reasons for our hope to all who ask. I hope that all of us will be both pilgrims of hope and witnesses of hope, as Pope Francis asks of us. Growing up in a large Irish Catholic family, there were certain rituals that we observed every year. And one of them was of particular importance. And that's when my Nana, my grandmother, as we called Ella Reedy, would take us each year on August the 2nd, gather us and go to Rocky River Drive, because there were 3 Franciscan houses there. One was the Poor Clare Monastery, then the Franciscan Friars of Our Lady of the Angels, and then the parish school that was run by the Sisters of St. Joseph of the Third Order of St. Francis. In those days, the church offered a plenary indulgence each time the faithful entered a Franciscan chapel and offered prayers for the intentions of the Holy Father. You could gain as many plenary indulgences as you could visit churches that day. I remember the throngs of people circulating between those 3 churches, gaining the indulgences, leaving one church, going to the next. We were part of that column. At one point, we entered the chapel of the Poor Clares, and my grandmother would announce what relative we were getting out of purgatory. I was getting tired and bored, and I said, Nana, we got that one out last year. She was unmoved by my protest and simply responded, that one needs a lot of prayers. According to the ancient tradition, St. Francis asked Pope Honorius III to grant an indulgence for all devout pilgrims who visited the chapel of Our Lady of the Angels on her feast day, August the 2nd. Pope Francis, in his bull of convocation for the Jubilee of 2025, Spes non confidit, a hope does not disappoint, He talks about St. Francis's intervention to establish the Porziuncola feast, the pardon of Assisi, as it's called in Italian. This was one of the historic events that inspired Pope Boniface to institute the custom of the Holy Year. The first Holy Year was in the year 1300, and in the last 800 years there have been 32 Holy Years convoked by the popes. The most recent is this year's Jubilee of Pilgrims of Hope. The Church's Holy Year finds their inspirations in St. Francis's Porziuncola indulgence and in the Old Testament Jubilee. In the Old Testament, every seventh year was a Sabbath year, and a week of Sabbath years was 50 years. That was the Jubilee. And the Jubilee was a moment when they would experience an economic, cultural, environmental, and communal reset, when the people and the land would rest, and all those who were in slavery would be set free. The cry of Jubilee could be, "Here begins a new life." For Dante, that life began when he saw the beauty of Beatrice. For us, the Jubilee should betoken a renewed encounter with God's mercy and love, an encounter with brothers and sisters who are fellow pilgrims on the journey of faith and hope. Welcome to the New York encounter in this Jubilee year as pilgrims of hope, ever ready to discover the path that allows us to say with Dante, "Here begins a new life." Welcome. God bless you.
Thank you, Cardinal O'Malley. And we keep going, building a dwelling place for people from all walks of life, as we heard from the stories that Cardinal O'Malley shared with us, and restoring a dwelling place for people from all walks of life, for all peoples. And this is what brought us to invite Monsieur Villeneuve, chief architect of the reconstruction of the Cathedral of Notre Dame in Paris. So I invite Monsieur Villeneuve on stage to join us and share with us his adventure with the reconstruction of the Cathedral of Notre Dame.
Hello, thank you very much. I'm going to try to speak in English. I said it since many years now. It's not better, but I always hope that a miracle, perhaps. And it's Michel Picot, the president of the Friends of Notre Dame Association, who can help me if I don't find a work or a sentence. Yes, I'm going to do quickly because I have to present you 5 years of work, very special work, the reconstruction of Notre Dame. Alors, ah bah ça commence. Ah yes, ah bah oui, alors, yes. You can see it's my family. You can recognize me, but I have to the two sides, two other architects, chief architects, Pascal Prunet and Rémi Fromont, and all around you have many architects, 1 or 2 engineers, It's not very important for the reconstruction of Notre Dame. Because there are 8th century little, there were no engineers, just maîtres d'œuvre, so architects. So I have tried to do the same without engineers. So, just after the fire, the cathedral was like it. I go quickly because I don't like to see these pictures because it's terrible, but in these 3 pictures, the most important is perhaps this one in the middle, because you can see a very important symbol of the cathedral is the statue of Notre Dame, de Paris. You can see in front of this statue the stone and the wood, the burnt wood of the spire. And to the right, you can see the other piece of wood of the spire down on the nave. So, and to the left, you can see the 3 holes in the vault, and this enormous hole in the vault give a white and very hard light in this cathedral that never seen since 8th century ago. C'est français? C'est anglais?
Yeah, 8th century, very good.
Better than. So we had absolutely to verify that the cathedral don't collapse more after the fire. So we did many things to stop. Perhaps the vaults can collapse. Perhaps the wall above the roses can collapse. Perhaps this chimère, the sculpture of Viollet-le-Duc, could fall down above the vaults of the nave. So it was very important to protect all the cathedral, and that's why you can see above the vaults we put parapluie, a roof,
Umbrella. An umbrella.
an umbrella.
Yeah.
Umbrella. J'aurais pas dit ça comme ça. Umbrella. And this umbrella, oh, it's very nice to was very, very useful because we began to build it on Tuesday, and it was finished to the Friday, and the Friday it's rained. So that's why it was very important. After we didn't know how was the vault. Perhaps they can fall down in 5 minutes, or perhaps in 2 weeks or 1 month. We didn't know. So I didn't want that anybody work under the vault of the nave, on the curve, the transept. So we just could walk on the little nave beside the pas beside, à côté, behind the nave, and above on the tribunes. But we had to carry on all the stones, the wood, out of the cathedral. So we use robots, as you can see. And after we had to pay attention that no any element of the structure of the cathedral move. If the vaults fall down, the flying buttress continue to push on the wall, so the wall could fall down. So that's why, as you can see in the picture, we built scaffolding under the vault in wood, and each of the 28 flying buttress of this cathedral were protected with this system. You can see a little drawing from the morning, and perhaps 2 or 3 weeks after, we could see the
Scaffolding, yeah.
Scaffolding, yes. Voilà. Oh, compliqué. Bon. Alors, the most important danger on the cathedral was the scaffolding of the crossing. Yes.
Was this your idea to do?
Ah bah c'est marqué. Removal of the burnt scaffolding. C'était quoi la question?
Et c'était ton idée de faire attention à enlever le...
Ah but no, it was not my idea. My idea, yes, it was my idea because I had to evacuate all the elements which were touched by the fire. So this wonderful scaffolding was completely burnt and destroyed, and the same thing. I didn't know if it could fall down, explode, or I didn't know. So we had to pay very important attention to found the process to démonter, to remove the scaffolding. So we use nacelles. I don't know if you saw that. Alors, oh pardon. Non, c'est pas ça, c'est ça. Excuse me. You know these elements, and we can use it during the day and during the night. And it was very important because we had to found these elements, and these elements are very important for the project here. And here, it's the exact place where the spire, the wood spire of Viollet-le-Duc, was built. So Viollet-le-Duc continue the pillar of the crossing above the vault, and after he put the 4 points of the structure. I'm going to show you in next view. You can see interior with the scaffolding, and after the same thing was used for the vaults than for the for the flying buttress. So it's for stabilization, it's also for restoration, and it's for the rebuilding of the vaults. And after I show you this element very important of the chantier.
Work area.
Work area. It's a new word I learned. There is 1 hour. So we refound on the ground. We found wonderful elements of the jubé. It's a wall who separates the chair for the clergy and the nave for the people. So this part of wall was very important and very precious because they have always a color, the pigment, the blue, red, black, with gold, and all this piece of sculpture was carefully put in the ground, and after they build a new pavement and a new decoration. It was at the 18th century. So we discovered this piece because we had to know how was the ground. Because on this ground we had to build a very impressive scaffolding to rebuild the spire. This scaffolding began from the ground and had to go to 100 meters high and 600 tons. So it's very, very heavy. So we knew that in the ground there was many sepultures, and we discover this wonderful piece. We perhaps will be exposed in a new museum for Notre Dame. I hope this museum, perhaps I didn't saw it. To restore the cathedral, you know that the fire destroyed all the carpenters and the roof. The roof was constituted with lead, and all the dust did make a very important pollution and very dangerous for the companions. So we had to use a vacuum, very puissant, powerful vacuum. And after we put latex on the wall and on the vaults. And as you can see in this photography, we discover with a chemical reaction traces of old decoration did create by Viollet-le-Duc for the baptism of the Napoleon's third son. You understand? Le fils de Napoleon. Oui, il y en a. Thank you. And you can see the little details. And after we restore the vaults, and you can see the state of the stone of the vaults. The vaults were just destroyed in 3 areas, but all the rest of the vaults resist for the against the fire, against the water, and against the shock of the wood will fall down on. And the architect of the Middle Age, the conceptor without engineers, conceived vaults to resist against the fire. And when you read, often you can read this cathedral was destroyed by the fire and several churches, and after it's always the same with which is restored. So it's because of the vaults. And at Notre Dame, the vaults did their job as the medieval architect conceived. So it's very important. They were intact, but the water, the dust, and perhaps the tannin, I don't know if you understand this word, it's le chêne.
Oak?
The oak?
The oak tree? Yeah.
The oak tree have du tanin, la sève. Enfin, c'est dur là, hein. Il n'y arrive pas. Ah, il n'y arrive pas. Ah, bah alors, Bon, enfin bref. Bref, the stones were grey and like it. And we restore all these vaults, and you can see it's before the restoration, and here it's after the restoration. It's because the joints were often in cement. Concrete. Sometimes other materials, but Viollet-le-Duc paint all the joints in grey. So you have a clear stone with grey joints. That was terrible. So we decided to paint every joint of the color of the stone, and we did this element. It was the same thing for the chapels. The chapels around the church were completely decorated with a wonderful decoration imagined by Viollet-le-Duc. It's like it. During 1 century in France, we don't like Viollet-le-Duc. Viollet-le-Duc was considered like a bad architect, a fantasist, with many imagination, but was not very serious. That's why all the chapels of the nave had the same decoration that you can see here, but with the Ministry of the Culture, they decide to destroy all this decoration. And with the fire, after the fire, we restore this decoration and we can see that it's wonderful. It's perhaps not medieval still, it's a neo-Gothic style invented by Viollet-le-Duc, and it's the beginning of the Art Nouveau, the new art, you know, in the beginning of the 20th century. Yes, and after restoration, this gives this result in each chapel of the church. I go quickly because I take many time. You can see the restoration of the spire. The spire is very particular because Viollet-le-Duc disposed statues, and these statues were brown before, and they began green after. So we restore this statue as they were at the beginning of the creation of the spire. And, excuse me, yes, and, oh, boom. You can, décidément, you can see this statue, the inner statue. And as you can see, the photography of one of statue which was moved on 4 days before the fire, it's like Miss Liberty in New York. And it's not a joke, it's true, because Bartholdi, the sculptor, called Viollet-le-Duc to realize the structure, the inner structure. But like sometimes French and United States are sometimes friends, sometimes are not very friends. So for the first centenary of independence, France decided to offer a wonderful statue of Miss Liberty. But so they keep the statue. But the statue was not finished, and Viollet-le-Duc died. So Bartholdi turned to an engineer. Bon, d'accord. Qui s'appelait Gustave Eiffel. Voilà. Donc vous avez en fait à Notre Dame. Eh bien, finalement, Tiens, je parle français. And finally, you have at Notre Dame the first invention of the Statue of Liberty in New York. Cocorico. So you can see here the statue of Viollet-le-Duc, my father, my father. And to rebuild this spire, it was not easy because, as I said you before, during 1 century, we in France we don't love Viollet-le-Duc. So perhaps if this fire avait eu lieu,
had not happened.
Had not that happened there are 5 years, 15 years before, or 20 or 30. Perhaps we don't rebuild the Viollet-le-Duc's spire, but perhaps in concrete, in a steel, I don't know. But it's sure I didn't rebuild this new spire. I wanted to rebuild this spire because it's a master chief, and also because the majority of people wanted to see again their cathedral, Our Lady. So I show you many documents of the architect with little stones of metal imposed by engineers. And I can see the different steps to rebuild the cathedral, and have to say that to build his spire, Viollet-le-Duc, moved down the vault. C'est pas move down. Non, déposa.
Yeah. Disposables.
Disposables. And after he can build the pillar I show you to the beginning, and he used the hole to move the piece of wood of the structure. And me, I had no more wood also, so I use this place not for move the piece of wood, but I use it to put the scaffolding. And so the work consists to build the structure, the wood structure, and after begin to put the couverture, the roof, the lead roof, and after we cut the scaffold. The scaffolding is on the wall, and after we can go down and shut the vault and go down the scaffolding and put the altar. I go very quickly. It's the drawing. You can see the new technology. It's the same technology of the Middle Age. So you can see, you laugh, but perhaps somebody said, yes, forêt. But we had used the same material because we knew that this carpenter, not this, but the old, had 8 and more centuries. She never had been restored, just a little reparation, but never any sign of destruction, never. So why use another material? And now, in France, we consider that it's very important to pay attention to the pollution and the bilan carbone. So, when I cut a tree, I put on the earth
A seed.
a seal,
A seed.
and after
On your tree.
put another tree, and no smoke in the air. So it's ecological, and structurally it's very important because this is exactly the same technology. And we did this. You can see here it's a restoration, the reconstruction of the medieval carpenter of the church. And next time I'll show you old carpenter, but you can believe me when I walk on this in this carpenter, I can imagine that there had been a fire before. It's the same carpenter that I knew 5 years ago. You can see the spire and the first image. It's the 4 points where are the 4 pillars of the crossing, and several details of the spire. And here you have the axis of the spire, and here you have the aiguille,
The needle.
the needle. And after, we had to put the decoration of the roof in LED, so you can see many details, the same as the Villeneuve drawn. Here you can see the vault rebuilt, and you can see the rest of the vault of the crossing with one of the 4 angels. This vault was moved by Villeneuve, but built by an architect, Beaufranc, in the 18th century. So we rebuilt this vault and we recreate the 4 angels to be, as you can see here, the several steps. And here you can see the three moments of a sculpture. One of the sculpture of Viollet-le-Duc. To the right, you can see the original stone, completely gray and red, because it shows fire during the accident, and after you have a 3D impression 3D.
3D impression.
Je l'ai dit.
Perfect. Yeah.
Vous avez compris? Oh, bon, ça va. And complement with plâtre. Ça, j'y arrive jamais, le plâtre.
Plaster.
Plaster. And the copy in the stone. And here you can see two sorts of stained glazes of Notre Dame, the 19th century to the right, and the 20th century in the left. All those stained glazes was restored. And after you have the organ, I'm sorry that this slide is not beautiful. You can see all the dust of lead in the organ and the keyboard and the facade. And here it's after restoration. There is 2 months or 3 months. And inner you can see other picture when we remove all the pipes. Here you can see other decoration of the inner cathedral, chapels, and the paintings. And painting has a very important collection in Notre Dame. There is a congregation who every year offer to Notre Dame on the 1st of May a painting. So there was a very impressionant collection, but after the revolution, all the painting was dispersed. And in Notre Dame, I think we have also 30 painting.
13. Yeah, 13.
Ah, I'm good. Alors, so you can see before and after. So the whole of the vault of the nave and after the nave, and I didn't wanted that we can make a distinction between the old and the reconstruction, and I like to ask to the visitor where is the new part of the vault. They never saw. It was very important because I didn't want that the cathedral show any traces of the fire. But there are 3 miracles during this restoration. The first, as I saw you, it's the protection of the statue of the Virgin. You can see. And after, the second miracle was that in the choir you have 3 statues, very important. You have the Vœu de Louis XIII, the wish of Louis XIII. When his son birthed, he decided to offer or to put France under the protection of the Virgin. So he decided to make a new decoration in the choir, and that's why there was 3 statues: Louis the 13th, Louis the 14th, and in the middle the Virgin with the body of Jesus just after the crucifixion, and in his hand there is a stigmat for the Christ. But from the vault fall down in the hand of the Christ the lead. So I imagine the symbol, or perhaps not a symbol, that the cathedral, the Maria Cathedral, is like crying, les larmes, like tears of lead in the hand of her son. It's beautiful, and for me it was an evidence we have to keep these traces in the hand, and today always it's the only one trace of this incendiary in this cathedral. I'm very long. And the third miracle is this rooster, because this rooster fall down when everybody saw the pictures when the spire fall down in the fire. Nobody saw that the rooster sorti de son axe.
He went out of his axis, yeah.
axis. C'est dur à dire, j'arrive pas. C'est compliqué, hein, l'anglais. Hein. Yes. So nobody saw, but in the 60th of April, so after the fire, I go on the North Tower and I saw on the roof a little green point that you can see here. And this was the rooster of Notre Dame. And it's a miracle because inside you had 3 relics, one of Sainte Geneviève, another of Saint Denis, the boss protector of Paris, and a piece of the Jesus crown, which is the main relic preserved in this cathedral since Saint Louis. So I decided to draw a new rooster because I consider that the precedent rooster was so beautiful like it, because he said all the pain of the cathedral, and it was also a copy of the original. It's not the Viollet-le-Duc's rooster. So I decided to design. I drew one day another rooster, and this was the only one drawing I did. It was fire. It was like a phoenix, and I wanted that this rooster said that the cathedral burnt one day, and after Notre Dame was rebuilt from the ashes, and it's also the Holy Spirit will go down on this cathedral. So inside there are also the 3 relics in the rooster, and another paper, a very manuscript, where you have all the name of the companion who rebuilt this cathedral. It was very important for me because I couldn't do this work without these wonderful people and anonymous people. So it's for me very important that they are in this roster. And it's me. No, but I show you one of the statue, which is Viollet-le-Duc, the architect of the spire. He decided himself to put his statue in the basement of the spire, and it's the only statue who looks the spire. The other look around. Just Viollet-le-Duc is with une règle. Oui, bon, it's not important. He look at the spire like it, and they say, it's very well, good. It's my... Yes, and I wanted that all the... it's not me, ça, c'est... Bah oui, Bah alors, bon, ça veut dire que je dois finir. En fait, l'idée, c'était de dire que it was that Viollet-le-Duc look at his spire, but today he don't know that the spire is burnt, because from 4 days before the spire, he was away. So he don't know. Donc, when in some months I'm going to put again Viollet-le-Duc in front of the spire, he will discuss, but it's not the same. Indeed, because above there is another architect, me, but who said hello, and it's funny, but symbolically, for me it's very important for the symbol, because there is not my name, there is no anything any thing you can say that it's an architect, and there is no date. So it's yes, it's perhaps me, but who recognize me in 1st century? S'en fiche. It symbolizes all the companions, all the architect companion engineers will rebuild this cathedral, and voilà, it's just a little joke, and it's a tradition in the compagnonage, and you can find many things like it in all the monuments, and it's very funny because nobody understands all these things, and that's why this was a wonderful rebuilding of Notre Dame. And I thank you to have support my poor English. Thank you to support my
We did
very
nothing.
long, and I stop it. Oh là, je me suis mis plus là.
Now I will ask you a personal question. May I? No, your experience, your personal experience.
Yes.
Okay. Now, at least to different degrees of understanding, we know how you restored in 5 years something that had been built through a century. But at your personal level, your personal experience, I mean, you were entrusted something extremely precious in your hands. Didn't you ever feel intimidated by the task?
Est-ce que tu as été intimidé par la tâche? Parce que c'était immense.
I'm completely, as you can see, a little fou.
Crazy.
A little crazy. No, more seriously, I love this cathedral since I'm little kid for 5 years old, and I began to love this cathedral because of the music with Pierre Cochereau, the organist. Because in Notre Dame you have the largest organ in France, and I began to hear music. And after I received books on cathedral from my grandfather, and after my another people of my family give me another book on Notre Dame and the Sun Chapel, and after I asked to my parents to go to Notre Dame to hear Pierre Cochereau, the music, and during this experience I saw this cathedral, the architecture, and for me architecture, Gothical architecture, but not only Gothic, is music. So I fall in love of this cathedral, and all my life, and this, for me it's very heavy to understand that. Perhaps it's not the answer, the good answer, but I think that from my birth to now, it was written that I had to do what I did. It's very terrible because I don't believe to the hazard, but I believe to destiny. And that's terrible because I often say to a certain general, Georges Lain, who said that I've showed up. I said that I was like Jeanne d'Arc, Saint Jeanne d'Arc. So I was completely determined. So I saw my cathedral burning. For me, it was an evidence I have to rebuild this cathedral. So I go completely quickly. Et du coup, each time I meet an obstacle, I don't recognize me And I often say that I didn't know who was this man who drives this work, this project. I didn't know, and now I think I'm ready to go to a psychiatric hospital. But the cathedral is rebuilt, so I finished.
Thank you, Mr. Villeneuve. Thank you.
Vous allez bien faire un petit mot.
Now, it's getting late. It's time to move to the next step. Now, there's a lot to see. There's a lot to visit. There's a QR code to scan so that you can have the whole program at hand. There's a food court. There are exhibits on the 5th floor. And we'll meet again here at 9 for a big concert. A piano concert in memory of Father Luigi Giussani, accompanied by his reflections on music with Kwai Leo, Pierpaolo Bellini, Denis Demirer, and Christopher Vath. So here at 9, and again, thank you, Mr. Villeneuve.
Thank you.